ride with me to the other clans and we will defeat the sky people.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, and welcome out there in podcast and YouTube land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, a podcast and YouTube channel or YouTube episode on a YouTube channel where we discuss horror movies, science fiction, key elements of those movies, and then things that those movies in turn have influenced. If you're joining us for the first time, yay, great. Love to have you. I'd love to hear how you found out about us through a friend or social media or whatever. Maybe drop us a comment down below and let us know. You might want to subscribe so you can find out we've been doing this for quite a long time. So we've got quite a few episodes that you could go back and watch other episodes of on our website or on the YouTube channel. And if you are returning to us, yay, we'd love to hear a comment from you guys too. We're working on our next season, putting that together. So what kind of titles would you love to see us do and attack with our Johnny Has the Podcastisms sort of thing? Tim, I'm here with Tim, my good friend. Tim, how you been? What have you been doing?
Oh my goodness gracious.
How
have I been? I've been great, actually.
Good.
The weather's warm. Love that.
Always.
Got my tie-dye shirt on, so I'm ready for the summer.
I got my swag on. Look at me. Look. Ooh.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Wonder where you got that. Maybe on the website under Johnny
Maybe on the website
merch.
You guys should need some of those. Yes.
Oh, well, we usually spend our ice-breaking moments at the beginning of episodes talking about what we did this week in our genre week. And I went to Amazon and finally watched a movie called The Black Phone.
Really? Okay. That's been on your list for quite a long time.
It has. We talked about it, I think, in a Coming to Get You last year.
Yes.
When it came out. This movie has a lot going for it. First of all, I really, really liked it. It's written by Joe Hill. For those of you who don't, it's based on a story by Joe Hill. And for those of you who don't know who that is, that's Stephen King's son.
Who's carrying on the horror legacy.
He's been carrying the mantle. Yes, he has.
Uh-huh.
It was directed by Scott Derrickson, who we are familiar with, even though we may not realize it. Scott Derrickson directed Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay.
He was set to direct Multiverse of Madness and got out of it because of creative differences. And that's why Sam Raimi ended up doing it.
Okay.
So if we have issues with it, maybe they were the same issues he had. I don't know. But he also directed a movie called Sinister, which also starred Ethan Hawke.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still. So
yeah, we're not going to go there.
Yeah, we're not going to go there. I've never seen it, and I know you don't like it. But he is obviously an established director that knows what he's doing. So I felt like I was in good hands when I was watching this movie. It's about a creepy child abductor, and he gets this kid and keeps him in a basement, and there's a black phone on the wall that's disconnected. Yet this kid keeps getting calls, and they are voices of past victims telling him what he can do to escape.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, great premise.
That's cool.
Ethan Hawke is awesome in it. That mask he's wearing is super creepy. I just found out doing some research before we started that Savini designed those masks, and that's why they look so creepy. He wears different ones.
Well, it's the one that they used on the poster, the one you got behind you, is very, to me, again, Dr. Sardonicus or Mr. Sardonicus. It just, I don't like a creepy smile. I don't like it. It unnerves me.
Well, there's actually one that has an even bigger smile and bigger teeth that remind me of Fluffy from Creep Show.
Creep Show.
Yeah. So I was like, no wonder Savini has a hand in this.
Tell it to call you Billy.
Other reasons why this movie resonates with me is that it is set in the 70s and has a great soundtrack. And I was like reliving my childhood. These kids on bikes. There's no such things as video games. It's people playing pinball. It's, there's no cell phones. There's no cable. There's barely any television.
There were only three channels.
Right. So this movie resonates with me. I highly recommend it. It only got 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. I would have given it a higher score, at least a 90. And it is on Prime Video. So go check it out.
That's excellent. My genre week was more in it's in a sub-genre of yours. So I went back because I've been in love with the television series for a while and like it. And they announced they're doing a new season. So I went back because I'd never seen it to watch the original film, What We Do in the Shadows. Have you seen that movie?
I have not. People have recommended it for years, and I just don't know that I want a comedy vampire thing.
Well, the things that it was done in 2014. It was done as a passion project with Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi, who went on to do all of the, Thor Ragnarok and some of the ones that we like. It was filmed in New Zealand. It was filmed actually the one of the houses in it is Peter Jackson's office, where his house is, the guy that did Lord of the Rings. And it's got a great cast. It's really good. I went into it because I don't like what I call cringe comedy. So people who know me know I don't like The Office. I don't like the British version. I don't like the American version. I don't really like Parks and Rec. I don't like that style of comedy. Whereas I'm going to do an interview now. However, I do like the Christopher Guest improv comedy, like
Best in Show.
What was the first one that I love so much?
The Mighty Wind. Waiting for Guffman.
No, the very first one. The very first one was Rock. The first rockumentary.
Oh, Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap. Yeah.
But that was more Rob Reiner. But yeah.
But it was still Guest doing the writing and doing all the stuff. Well, what writing there was. It was basically an improv script, which is why that's my comparison to this. This was mostly improv. As a matter of fact, doing some research on it, they had over 90 hours of footage that they had to pare down to 90 minutes, essentially. And it took them over a year to edit this movie. And it's hilarious, Tim. It is so funny. It is so well done. It carries on everything. They've taken it and modified it a little bit for the series, but it was great to go back to the source material and see how they started it and how they originated. Like Vlad calls himself Vlad the Poker because he doesn't like the term impaler. He thinks it's too cold and cruel. So he calls it, I prefer the poker. Just call me the poker.
Have you seen the series too?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought this was your first venture into it.
I started on the series just because I thought, and then found out, this was based on a movie after like the first season. I think they're in season 3 now, and they just announced 4. But it's it's very improvisational. It's very funny. It's very handheld camera. Like, we're just shooting in this room and here we go and just let them go to town. And so it has a lot of great, brilliant stuff to it from a performance angle.
Cool. Is it on Amazon as well as the series? Isn't the series on Amazon?
It is. And you can actually get it too on YouTube. You can get the entire movie on YouTube.
Is it all 90 hours?
Oh, no, it's just the 90 minutes. But interesting you said that, because I was going to cap it with my little trivia thing, which was that Clement and Waititi have said they want to put all 90 hours on a YouTube channel and let fans make their own movies, make their own versions of it. And I thought that was a really cool idea, especially now as many people using their phones to make movies and all this kind of stuff. It would be very interesting to see a bunch of fan films.
It'd be very interesting if someone did a cut so good that they decided to release it and pay them for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
And, you know, you won't recognize anyone in the cast because they're all mostly New Zealand actors who just agreed to come over and do it.
I would recognize one of them from the series because he's been a panelist on RuPaul's Drag Race. I was like, who is that guy? And then I realized, oh, he's on that show, What We Do in the Shadows.
Right.
Well, and his name.
Vigo in the movie is Taika Waititi. He plays that role as well.
Oh, okay.
So, and so you can see his humor as well. And they've got all the, I mean, you got the classic, I have been a vampire forever, and I'm brooding angel type upset about it. It's not a life I really wanted to have, but now I have to. You have, I've been a vampire for just a kind of a, you know, mid sort of history, and I love every minute of it. I'm a hedonist. I'll eat 3 or 4 women a night, or men, doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm having a good time. You know, that kind of guy. You've got the brand new, just developed and doesn't know any of how vampirism works. And in the basement, they have a Nosferatu. You know, and they're all 4 flatmates. They all live together. That's kind of the gag of the series and the movie as well, is they live in one house.
It's a sitcom.
It is. Well, so yeah, to your point, maybe a better comparison is not Kids in the Hall. What was the one we watched a lot from BBC? Oh, this carpet is in need of some hoovering.
Oh, the Young Ones.
Young Ones. It's Young Ones. It's Young Ones as vampires.
I love that.
Think about that. That's a
you
better
had
comparison.
me with that because I'd love that show.
And that's a much better comparison to that. Yes, that's a really good one. So yes,
okay, now
give it a try. I really recommend it to everybody. Both the movie and the series are funny and great and good horror. That's not really horror because they don't. You'll like it too because they don't skimp on the blood. When they show blood or when there's the whole room is plastered, and he turns to his familiar and goes, and could you maybe clean it's disgusting in there, could you fix that maybe and then later on it shows her and she's like mopping the floor and everything, going, he's going to change me soon. That's the only reason I'm doing this, is because he's going to make me
my life
a vampire.
For you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, segues. We've got segues going here because you're talking comedy. And although yours is intentionally funny, I think our subject today was unintentionally funny.
Jesus.
And I talked about The Black Phone, which is set in the 70s, and no other movie we've seen in a while has been so explicitly set in the 70s.
Yeah, correct.
Today's topic is a little movie called Phantasm from 1979. It was directed by Don Coscarelli. This is our second movie we've covered by him. We did Bubba Hotep a few seasons back. Wonderful mummy movie.
Wonderful. I agree with that.
Davis and Bruce Campbell. Yes. This movie is, well, to give a brief synopsis, basically you've got these 2 brothers that have recently lost their parents. Their friend Tommy gets murdered in the very beginning of the movie. They go to the funeral, and that's how they discover this sinister funeral home. They have a friend named Reggie that's an ice cream man. And it turns out they stumble upon a nefarious plot that's going on at this funeral home that has to deal with a tall man that is sometimes a woman that rapes or that has sex with men and then kills them in the neighboring cemetery. But he's also taking dead bodies from the mortuary and squishing them down into little dwarfs to use as slaves on his planet because he's from another world. And that's in a different dimension. So maybe it's not a planet. Maybe it's just a different dimension. I've seen different descriptions of it. This movie's got a lot of shit going on, if you hadn't noticed.
Yep, it does.
It came out, like I said, in 1979. What are your initial memories of this film? Or your experience?
I remember the ads because of the metal ball, and they played that up a lot. They played up Angus Scrimm, who plays the tall man, and they used a lot of those. It's almost like I'm staging the shot to be a poster kind of shots from the movie, like the nightmare when the boy's in bed and he's standing above the headboard with the big bright light behind him, and the dwarves
like
jump
that picture
out
behind me.
It's a very poster friendly image and shot sort of thing. And so I remember all of that. I never saw this movie. I never ever saw this movie.
I did not see it in a theater because I was too young. It was a rated R and I was 14. And you had to be 16 to see R.
It's rated R because there are boobs in 34 seconds of the movie. Within 34 seconds, you got boobs happening.
Well, you also have the fact that Angus Scrimm is sometimes not the tall man. He is a woman in the cemetery.
Well, now see, and I never got that. I never got that they're the same person. I kind of felt like he was controlling her somehow, but we never see any form of transmutation. All we do is see a close-up of her, then suddenly a close-up of him, and then a close-up of her.
I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe he is controlling her. There is another guy that appears in this movie for a few seconds with a hat, and I don't know who he is.
Yeah, who was he? And what? Yeah. I do say that
we'll get to people that we don't get, or that we're like, where did they come from?
I will say after watching it that this is the only time in all of our recording of podcasts where you have sent me your watch notes, and it was very interesting to compare the watch notes because that I had already done to yours and see how similar we were, how dissimilar in places, but stuff that we were.
Mine were just mostly funny because there's so much crazy shit going on in this movie.
Yeah. I've got one of my biggest notes is, the subtitle to this title should be "What the hell is going on?" Because people say that line like 10 times in the movie.
They do.
And I wanted to say it. I was going, yeah, that's what I say. What the hell am I watching?
I mean, we'll get into a little bit of the story structure in a second, but it's like, what? I almost wonder if he was just shooting it as he went and really didn't know where it was going, because it starts off as a horror movie and then takes a hard right into sci-fi territory toward the end.
Yeah.
What I remember most about this movie is what I remember about a lot of movies of the 70s that I couldn't go see because they were R-rated. Another one that comes to mind, It's Alive.
Oh, It's Alive. Yep.
You hurry about this baby. He's got these claws, that look like 2 fingers or 3 fingers or whatever. This movie, all we heard about was that ball, man, that silver ball. And, pinballs were huge in the 70s.
Yep.
And now you've got this tennis ball sized pinball flying through the air, latching on and drilling into people's heads.
Yes.
I thought I had a picture. Yeah, I do. There's a picture of it right there. So, I mean, that was the thing, oh, you got to see it. It's great. It drills into this guy's head and blood squirts out, as kids, that's great talk, when you're having lunch or on the playground at school. But no, I never saw this until I rented it on videotape. And by then, I think they started the sequels, which is another point I wanted to make, is the tall man. There's been several of these movies, probably 5, 7, I don't know.
Yeah, because the last one was called Ravager with the V, the 5.
Okay. And the tall man was essentially the third 1970s franchise killer, I guess you would say, because Michael Myers came in 78, Jason came in 80, and this guy was right in between them, so he was number 2, I guess. Actually, no, Leatherface would have been in there too, because he came in the earlier 70s. But I mean, no one ever thinks of the tall man. They always think Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael, but the tall man had his fair share of movies.
But are any of them as as incredibly good as this one? I mean, come on. How could they top
J.J.
it?
Abrams clearly loves this movie because he purchased it and did a 4K restoration of it.
Which I had the joy of enduring this week to watch it. Yes. I watched that version.
I did too.
So, yeah.
Yeah. The movie was originally budgeted at $300,000. It went on to make $12 million. So that's one of the reasons why we've seen a lot of the Tall Man. I love the behind the scenes things about this.
Okay.
Coscarelli rented the filming equipment to make this movie, but he always did it on Fridays, so he didn't have to return it till Monday and got it cheaper.
That's great.
Do you remember doing that with video cameras?
Maybe. Maybe.
The original running time was 3 hours, and they edited it down to this 90 minutes that we saw. So I'm really curious as to what the rest of it was.
Yeah.
I don't know where else to go except scenes.
Sure. I mean, it's very interesting because, I mean, there are parts of this movie that look like, you talked about equipment. There are parts of this that look like it was shot on 16 millimeter. Mm-hmm. I mean, worse than Evil Dead, which came out a year later, kind of thing. Well, it's filmed at the same time, but came out a year later, sort of thing. It's just, I mean, I've got my list that just says, near the end, it says, okay, this has a bad script, bad acting, bad lighting, bad story, bad music, bad effects. What about this movie is good? Everything.
That's the whole point, is that everything, there's not really anything good in this movie, and yet I am compelled to watch it, and I watched it twice. It is Basket Case. I mean, it is like the 1979 version. You know, Basket Case actually didn't come out until 3 years later. So this precedes Basket Case.
Well, yeah. I mean, but this was the same year that like Apocalypse Now came out. This is the same year as Dawn of the Dead.
No, Dawn of the Dead was 78, but it was the same year as Amityville Horror.
Yeah, Amityville Horror. Yeah. We talked about the Salem's Lot miniseries, the one that was on television.
Was this year.
Came out this year.
It's not good either.
Well, true.
And neither was Amityville. Maybe 79 was just a bad year. Don't drink wine from 1979.
Okay, so scenes. Let's go there then, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you said. So, I mean, you can't deny that it has a good opening, compelling scene. You know, that's kind of interesting. They're having sex in a cemetery, and suddenly she pulls out a knife and stabs the guy. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty good hook. That kind of good there. The whole initial walk through the mausoleum is so horribly paced and slow that you can't not forget it, sort of thing.
Well, and now that JJ restored it, it looks like wallpaper instead of marble.
Oh yeah, and very bad wallpaper too. Phantasm is nothing without the silver ball. And it's nothing without these weird little freaking Jawas. I mean, dwarfs or whatever they are that don't really.
I'm calling them Jawas because they look like Jawas.
They do, with a little pointed hat and everything. Yeah. I mean, pointed hood. They look just like.
So there's definitely a Star Wars key here. But from what I understand, these were designed. I'll have this in my notes somewhere. Possibly before the ones in Star Wars were designed. I don't know how that's possible though, since it came out 2 years later.
Right.
Yeah. I guess they were just trying to avoid being, plagiarism or whatever.
Well, and also when they finally go to, the door at the end of the hall and open it, and they're suddenly in this weird white room with black canisters and 2 harmonic chrome posts. It's very Lynchian. I was going, wait, this is 20 years before Twin Peaks, and it's just weird the way Twin Peaks got weird at times. But not, and I want to say Lynchian but this was like, wait, wasn't Eraserhead in 78? Eraserhead was in 78.
It was. So, I don't know exactly what year, but it was around the same time. Yeah.
But Lynch had not even established Lynchian yet. So this was Lynchian before Lynch.
If you were going to classify it or compare it to Lynch, which would it be? Twin Peaks? Because I would. It reminds me more of The Room where the dwarf is dancing in the red curtains.
Yeah, the other dimensional realm kind of thing, which is very Twin Peaksy. I can see that. But this predates that by 20 years. 79, 89, no, by 11.
About 15, yeah.
So, and let's see, scenes.
Most of my scenes that immediately come, I mean, obviously you're going to have the iconic ones, like the ball.
Yeah.
Chasing the guy and latching onto his head and drilling into him. That's just iconic. The tall man is iconic. The scenes that stick out in my head are for comedic reasons. The first one I have is when Jody is now having sex with the lady in lavender, is how she is billed, but that is tall man's alter ego in the cemetery. So the brother that looks like David Hasselhoff's twin, is having sex in the cemetery, and his brother Mike gets scared and just goes running through the cemetery screaming, "Ah!"
From a totally different direction than where he was to begin with. Yes.
And you see his brother in the background on top of the lady in lavender look up with panties in his teeth and go, "What the heck?"
Yep.
That scene I had to watch like 3 times because I was laughing so hard when I saw it.
Well, and when he turns back and says, "That's my brother, I've got to check," he still has them in his teeth. Whose decision was that on the set or whatever? But sure, there you go. I guess.
But it was right out of like a Disney film. I was like, "Oh my God, is that Jodie Foster running across the cemetery screaming?" Yeah. Christy McNichol. Of course, it's the 70s, so that's what it looks like. Another one, the scene where Mike is under the car and somebody kicks the jack out so that the car is like pressing him to the ground. And he's like got his hands out gripping a hammer, and he takes that hammer, and it's the way they edit it because it's so improbable. Yeah. And it's his brother's toe with that hammer.
Yep.
God, that's funny. Ow. And that's a very David Lynch thing too.
That was
Don't drink that coffee. There's a fish in the percolator.
There's a fish in the percolator. Yeah.
And it's supposed to be a jump scare, I think, but it just like the cemetery scene, all it did was make me laugh. Another great jump scare is when Reggie goes back, I think, to their house. He's in like a residential house.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden a woman pops out and goes, "Hey, you boys back yet?"
Yeah, the maid from nowhere.
Yeah, Reggie goes, "Jesus Christ, Myrtle." And I'm like, who the hell is Myrtle?
Who the hell is Myrtle? It was in your notes and it's in my notes. Who the hell is Myrtle? Where did she come from?
We never see her again.
No, she has no purpose in this movie.
Just the jump scare. That's it.
Yeah.
And then my final funny scene is the scene where they're in the funeral home and they've got together with Reggie, who I think actually is probably the scene kind of behind me, where he gives the whole exposition of like, "Oh no, the girls are okay. I rescued them and did all this shit off screen."
Yeah, that you've never seen.
They don't have time to show it.
Yeah, we had to cut those 90 minutes.
Yes. And then all of a sudden the lights go out and the lines are, okay, everybody stick together. And you hear Mike go, I think I've got a lighter. And someone says, light it up. And he does. And there's a Jawa's face right in front of his face. And he screams.
Yeah.
Yet again.
Movie has a tremendous amount of jump scares. What I found interesting was not one of the jump scares has a sting to it. There's no audio sting with their jump scares, which I thought was really interesting. That's an interesting choice.
I think that you brought up something that I actually wanted to touch on, is that the sting they do have when the tall man ever pops out in the woods, instead of having a music cue, like a it's a shotgun blast.
In the woods, in that last part when he's chasing him. And I don't know why that was a choice.
It's bizarre. It's like whenever he appears.
And it's like, oh, he's magic. No,
it's not scary music. It's just a shotgun blast. It's very strange.
I'm glad you said the word music, because I'm going to send my watch notes to you after this so you can read them and laugh, because I must have 10 times in my watch notes. Okay, we can stop with the theme. Okay, the theme is killing me. I mean, they repeat that freaking theme so much, and it's really only like 8 measures.
It's just a little keyboard trill.
And it just, very inspired by Halloween, obviously. But I was going, oh, please don't, not theme music again. No, not the theme. No.
You say Halloween. I say Dario Argento. It sounds exactly like something out of an Italian horror movie to me.
I agree with you. And
as a matter of fact, this movie reminds me of an Italian horror movie.
Yep.
Even though it's not.
That's one of my big keys is Italian horror, even down to it has that red freaking cheesy blood again, too. Yeah. That bright red, way too liquid blood.
You made me just realize that his name is Coscarelli. I think he has Italian connections.
Probably.
I should have looked that up, because I want to say that he may have filmed some movies in Italy, because most of his movies went direct to video. This and Bubba Hotep are really the only things he's known for.
Bubba Hotep is so much better than this movie, though. He obviously learned a great deal before he did that one, because he
also had a better cast. This cast is terrible.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Horrible.
Yeah. I mean, even Angus Scrimm looks great, but he's not a great actor. And all he ever says is, boy.
Yeah. I was just looking through notes to see if there's any other scenes or anything that popped out.
Before we get to cast, as far as watch notes, I've got more craziness. Like I said, the tall man has a female incarnation that picks up dudes in Dune's cantina and then kills them in the cemetery. I don't get it. I don't know why, unless he just needs more bodies to make those dwarfs to be slaves in his dimension.
Yeah, because one of the dwarves they find is Tommy.
Yeah. That's the one. So that means that incarnate. Well, you're right. He could be using a woman to do that, but I think that's just him. I think he morphs into a woman's body.
Either way.
Music so 70 sounds like Argento. Where did that wig head come from that pops into Mike's hands when he bumps into the box?
It fell from the box above. The wig and the wig head fell from the box above.
Oh, and we were asking who Myrtle is. Who is the guy in the hat that gets the ball?
I have no clue. And I thought, so I looked it up and it said he's a guard. And I went, okay, why would you have a guard at a mortuary? And even if you did, why would the ball kill the guard? It seems like you wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah, there's a shot of him there. It knocked his hat off. Yeah. I mean, there is a scene where Mike is hiding in a casket and he sees the tall man and that man exit the room. So I assume he's working at the mortuary. That was my assumption. Yeah.
I thought he was some kind of worker. I looked it up. It said guard. And I went, yeah, but why? Even in my notes, I've got, why would you kill one of your own employees?
Yeah. And, we've talked taxidermy with Psycho, and I'm not a fan of taxidermy. I think it's kind of morbid. But is that a half a cougar coming out of their wall?
What?
In Mike and Jody's house, I think it's above the fireplace. there's like half a cougar. It's not just the head.
It's like the arms. Coming
out of the wall. I'm like, that is so strange.
Well, again, set dressing in this is weird, the way they do stuff and the way they have that entire fortune telling scene. And I'm going, what is the freaking point of any of this? And why linger on the daughter and the mom kind of giggling about it afterwards or what? I don't understand what the hell is going on.
It's the tag to the scene.
I guess.
The only thing I think is that he's doing, and this is a key. I can't remember which movie where he sticks his hand in that box.
It's Dune.
It's Dune. Okay.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. The biggest key from that, because even in Dune, the whole thing, the phrase when he does it with the Bene Gesserit is fear is the mind killer. Do not fear.
Okay.
And that's what he does all the way through. When he goes into the harmonic dimension, he says, don't fear, don't fear, don't fear. So I don't know what that illusion was.
I think he's just a Frank Herbert nerd, and he wanted a scene in there that had something to do with like Dune. Yeah, that's what I got out of it.
In my watch notes, I've got, obviously the brother is a musician. He's got a Rolling Stones t-shirt on.
And then why don't they just sit on a Fender amp, drink a couple of Dos Equis, and have a musical interlude for no reason at all?
No reason whatsoever. Other than we have pseudo established in just small dialogue before that the brother's Jody, right? That's the brother.
Jody's the older brother. Mike's the younger brother.
So David Hasselhoff has come back to town after Tommy's dead, and he's going to go back out on tour, he said, or go back out on tour. So we assume he's a musician of some kind, although we don't really see that or need to.
Actually, Reggie, I think his name is Reggie Bannister.
Reggie
actor.
is the ice cream guy.
But his real name is Reggie Bannister. And he really is a musician. And I will get to that later, behind the scenes, probably, when I talk about him, because when he's playing, he's clearly the one doing the lead guitar as they're playing.
Yeah. The other thing too is, does this car only have one gear? It only goes from like 0 to 60. I mean, the car either spins out every time they're in the car, or as soon as it stops, it's going.
You're talking about the muscle car, not the hearse, right?
Yeah, no, their car, the muscle car. I've got in there. This car does 0 to 60. That's all.
Damn lot got stuck.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, and the one time when he crawls out the top and he goes, I'm going to kill that bastard. And they have just said there's nobody driving the hearse. What bastard are you referring to that you're going to kill? Just
gonna blow up. And when that hearse hits that telephone pole,
oh my God,
it's like a miniature nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, well, they had fun shooting that. Let's blow up a car.
And I'm wondering if he even had any permission at all to film at that building, that kind of Django Unchained cemetery building or whatever, because it looks very, Southern Gothic.
It's been in a lot of movies. I've got it in my keys.
But the weird thing is that it was never, he only filmed it from one angle. There was never a shot from the front of the building, walking up the stairs.
No, because he just used the same shot every time.
Right. Everything was from one angle.
And how big? I mean, that's the biggest funeral home I've ever seen in my life. It's enormous. It looks like a hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the Shining Hotel.
Yes.
Crazy.
I've got in my watch.
Bam, that kid bites hard. When he's biting the guy that gets the ball in the head, blood is just pouring out of the guy's arms as he's biting him. I was like, shit, this is a zombie movie. Also, when David Hasselhoff gets attacked, he gets jumped from behind by a Jawa.
Yeah.
He has a gun and aims over his head to shoot the Jawa off his back. I'm like, you're going to shoot yourself in the head.
Yeah, that's a good way to kill yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Let's just take a blind shot over the head to whatever's on your back. Crazy.
Yeah, I've got, boy, that younger brother has the sharpest knife in the world because it cuts through 4 fingers with just one chop. Just
one chop.
And all 4 fingers are gone, And then I've got in my notes, because, in my room, I always keep a small wooden box for my fingers.
Well, he may have kept other stuff in there.
It's a perfect little prop box with the, with the little latch and everything. Mm-hmm. And then what is up with that noise? The finger turns into a fly.
It turns into a mutant fly that would make David Cronenberg proud.
Right. That flies around, and then they have to put it in the garbage disposal.
Oh, they have that scene where he's just looking face into the camera, face front, and you see his hair start to rise in the back because flies
climbing up his back.
And they have to kill it twice in the garbage disposal with with a denim jacket.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What the hell is going on?
What the hell is going on? I've also got in my notes, in case you didn't know that was Tommy, here's a brief flashback, because they show the Tommy and he says it's Tommy. And then suddenly we see Tommy's face on the grave and we come back. It's like, what? We didn't know that from the dialogue?
Yeah. I've got his Jody having an orgasm when he opens that casket and he's not even looking in it.
Yeah.
And then when Mike opens it, he just sees that it's empty and screams.
And I've got...
So one guy's like orgasmic and the other guy screams.
I've got the Volkswagen attack. Seriously? That's all I can say. The Volkswagen attack.
I thought that was hilarious how he popped out of the back windshield at the end and the car drove off. I was like, how does that happen?
How do
you go through a windshield backwards?
And he does it twice in this movie. He does it in the hearse too.
Mm. Oh, that's right.
He shoots the tire in the hearse. The kid just is obviously good at jumping out of windows in the back of cars.
Well, he's pissed because he missed all those Jimmy McNichol roles.
I also have in my notes, naturally, everything I need for my new invention is right here in the desk in front of me. So, there's the tape. And there's this, and I'll put this together. I'll MacGyver this thing.
And why is it that Jody always insists on leaving Mike behind? Because he always shows up anyway.
Yeah. He will follow you no matter where you are.
And that whole screwdriver in the door trick doesn't work.
No.
I'm going to lock him in the door. Let me stick this screwdriver in it.
Yeah, that doesn't work at all.
I'm almost done with random notes. I've got, those are some really big boulders Jody's pushing down that hill fast.
Yeah.
Gigantic rocks. And then I didn't understand the ending. Why is Jody dead? He was like the hero of the story.
Agreed. I go,
and then all of a sudden
hell?
It's Reggie and Mike and Jody's dead and everything was a dream.
Yeah. Then he took Jody, quote, and I've got, what the hell is going on? Yeah. That made no sense unless they're in some other dimensional thing or what. I don't understand.
No. And then they have the tag ending, which is straight out of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Very much so.
This movie's tag, speaking of tags, is if you're looking for horror that's got balls, it's found you.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
So should I move on to cast? Because we have a very stellar cast here that we could talk about.
Really? Okay. Yes, sure. Let's move on to cast.
Yes. A. Michael Baldwin. I love how he cast 2 people in this movie with their real names, and one of them is Mike. A. Michael Baldwin played Mike. In my opinion, his best line is, "You shit me, man. That mother's strong."
Yeah.
It's like his own little, I don't know, black exploitation moment where he decides he's going to sound like somebody from the movie Shaft instead. And then Bill. Oh, okay. That's all I have for Mike. Other than he is a Jimmy McNichol lookalike wannabe, what have you. The role of Jody Pearson was played by Bill Thornbury, and he is a David Hasselhoff lookalike, as you can see in the picture I had up behind me a while ago. By the way, I looked for other movies that these guys have been in, and none of them really have gone on to do hardly anything, except for Reggie Bannister, who is like in every Phantasm movie, and he is in Bubba Hotep.
Did he have anything to do with maybe the writing of it? He must be best friends with Coscarelli.
Yeah, I mean, they smoke joints and play guitars. I don't know.
Probably, yes. Obviously, that's it.
The role of Jody Pearson, however, was not going to be played by a David Hasselhoff lookalike. It was intended for Gregory Harrison. You remember him?
Harrison. Yeah, that name is familiar. Gregory Harrison.
He was in Trapper John, MD.
Okay.
He played the title role in Coscarelli's first feature, Jim the World's Greatest, in 1975. Evidently, he went on to better things like television. And then my favorite line of Jody's is, "Warning shots are bullshit. You shoot to kill or you don't shoot at all."
Yeah.
Or you shoot over your head without looking.
Yeah, mine is still, I'm going to kill that bastard. Yeah. Which one? The one that's not driving the car? That bastard?
Reggie Bannister, I don't have anything on him. Like I said, he played the nursing home administrator or whatever in Bubba Hotep. But other than this, he is a musician. He has played, and I thought I put this in my notes, but maybe I didn't under trivia. He has played with several notable music acts of the 70s and 80s. And he must be like a backup musician of some kind, or a studio musician.
Okay.
If I come across it, I'll mention them. But I mean, it was like, I don't know if it was the Rolling Stones, but it was some pretty high caliber stuff. So that's all I really have on Reggie Bannister. Kathy Lester played the lady in lavender, tall man's alter ego. Know nothing else about her. And then that brings us to Angus Scrimm, whose real name is Lawrence Rory Guy.
Wait, before you jump onto him, though, you said
sure.
Kathy Lester. She's the lady in lavender.
Mm-hmm.
I looked her up on IMDb just now, and it confirms your thing, because it actually says she, due to her erotic performance as the lady in lavender, the tall man's female alter ego.
There you go.
So there you go. She literally is him. And she's done 5 movies. 3 of them were Phantasm movies. And that was it.
Well, this film's sexually woke too, then. I like it. Angus Scrimm, as I said, his real name is Lawrence Rory Guy. I have always heard that he is the complete opposite of this character, that he is like a gentle soul and one of the sweetest people you could ever possibly meet.
Okay.
But he's this tall, menacing figure, and like I said, an iconic slasher, I guess, villain of the 70s and 80s. However, he doesn't have a lot of lines. It's usually just "boy," raising his hands up dramatically.
Yeah, and I saw a thing that said that he really wasn't that tall either. He was 6'3" or something like that, but they made him even taller with like boxes and
I think the guy that played Jody
like
was really tall, and they had to put him on boxes to make him look taller than Jody or something. Yeah, I did see that. And then the only other thing I have as far as cast is that silver ball, man. it gets its own POV at one point in the movie, and it's so jarring. It kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, it was like a Terminator. I've got Terminator as the key because it goes red with little, graphics on it and everything.
It's a cut away from another scene. So all of a sudden you're in red, like infrared vision flying around a mortuary. I was like, where the hell did that come from?
And why did we need it? What the hell is going on?
That's funny. And then let's see what else. Effects. I've got. Oh no, that's scenes. Never mind. We've already gone over that. All right, that's all I have for casting. As far as awards,
yes.
Our friends, the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, gave this a Saturn Award for Best Blu-ray Special Edition Release. So this is what I would call a posthumous award. So I'm wondering if it's anything to do with the J.J. Abrams thing, because it was in 2017 and that's fairly recent. So maybe. Probably.
And they're maybe just saying, oh, it was you deserve it because you did a great not translation, but you did a great whatever you call it.
Well, maybe, but if you also go back to 1980, they nominated it for Best Horror Film. So they've nominated it twice, several years apart. The Avoriaz Fantastic Film Festival, I think I've mentioned that a few times. That's somewhere in Europe. It won Special Jury Award, Don Coscarelli, and it was nominated for Grand Prize. But that is all, and it is not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die. And I'm kind of speculative about that.
Oh, not at all. No. I don't think anybody has to see this movie. No.
Come on. You enjoyed it.
I did have two trivia things on it. Had in research, it said that the title, Phantasm, which, we know just refers to, a figment of the imagination, an illusion, an apparition, or whatever. That's the definition of it. But they said that it actually they were inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. It's an Edgar Allan Poe quote. However, doing research, I could not find a quote by Poe that uses phantasm as in the quote. But that's
phantasmagoric?
What they had said. And then Coscarelli, I found out, really for like 3 years before this, had wanted to do a version of another horror story. Do you know what the story was? Did you read
I do. Do you want me to spoil it?
Sure, go ahead.
It was Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Disney bought it, so he didn't have the rights and he couldn't do it, so he had to do this.
Yeah.
And this is so far removed from Something Wicked This Way Comes.
It is. And in that note, I have that note as well. It said that Reggie Bannister approached Coscarelli about adapting that book. So they were friends that got together and got high and played guitar.
Yeah, played guitar, hung out and said, hey,
let's do that Ray Bradbury story.
Let's do that scary movie we were talking about, man. Come on.
Yeah. What else do I have? The effect of that's actually something I will get into with keys.
Okay.
Entertainment Weekly ranked this as the 17th scariest movie ever made.
Bullshit, Bona. That's just what I'd say to that. There's no way.
It's frighteningly funny, though. I will give them that.
It does have some humor to it. And I bet if you were high, it would be even funnier.
Yeah. It was originally rated X and banned by the MPAA because of the silver sphere scenes. And because of the caretaker urinating on the floor. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, after he died, suddenly the pool of urine comes out. And I think that's the first time I've ever seen that. I mean, we've seen people wet their pants before, or a bully intimidates a kid and they pee themselves or whatever.
Right.
But the whole, after the guy dies, they release everything. I don't think it's ever been, I've never seen that in a movie as far as I remember.
No, and it says that Los Angeles film critic Charles Champlin made a phone call to a favor on the ratings board and got it downgraded to X, from an X to an R. So, I mean, it's not that shocking. I mean, it's not as shocking as those tits in your face at the beginning.
That's not shocking, Tim. There's nothing shocking about those. I mean, they're gratuitous as hell.
Well, they're gratuitous and they're surprising when you see the urine trickle out of the cuff of the pants. I mean, that's not really shocking or jarring to me.
Right.
Like a pair of tits being flashed in front of you,
It's true. True. It was an abrupt cut, boobs, and then now suddenly they're not,
right.
Sort of thing. And then with the urine, you're really more focused on
the murder that just happened.
Yeah, and on the kid there pulling out the knife, and that's just in the foreground, kind of moving. So yeah, I agree with that. It's just
what the hell is going on?
And they've done more than 5. They've done 5 sequels to this.
I should have looked that up. I didn't, but I knew there was a bunch because I accidentally started one of them when I was trying to watch this one.
Yeah. They've done 5 sequels. So, and as far as I know, Angus Scrimm is in all of them. Reggie, I think, is in all of them.
Probably.
I know he's in 5. And according to what I just looked up, Lady in Lavender is in at least number 3, if not 3 and number 4. So,
and I guess maybe they explain more about this interdimensional planet where he keeps dwarfs as slaves in what looks
evidently,
like a dune desert.
Yeah, evidently they expand on that more, I'm assuming. I also saw in notes that the young boy, is that Tommy? Is Tommy the kid? Mike.
Tommy's the one that gets murdered in the beginning.
So Mike and Jody. But Mike, they didn't cast him in the second one, and he was really, really pissed. And they cast somebody else, and that they were the lead in that. But he was recast in 3, 4, and 5. So I think he's in at least 3 and 4. I'm not sure about Ravager.
I'm really curious as to what the plots are of all these sequels.
Yeah, I may have to just read the plots rather than watch the movie. I also watched Siskel and Ebert's review of this movie.
Oh, I'm sure it is good.
Hilarious. You need to watch it because they do not like this movie at all. And they just, it's right when they were at their height of doing the whole thumbs up and the review on television. PBS,
oh yeah, late 70s at the movies. Yeah, they were on every week on PBS. I remember.
And they are just as questioning as we are about this whole movie. I just don't get it. I don't get why would you do this? It's great. Anyway, keys.
Yeah, keys. Well, you already mentioned Twin Peaks, which I would consider that room with the tuning fork gateway to another dimension very, very Lynchian. But we also mentioned Star Wars because of the Jawas. And when you see that weird, it's like not a superimposed, but like a negative looking color. Yeah, that it's brightly colored and it looks like the little Jawas are walking across a desert. It looks like it's out of Star Wars and they're just on Tatooine.
That could easily be Tatooine shot. Yes. I agree with you.
But it also reminded me of Dune, which is Lynchian in its own respect too.
Agreed. I think key influences are Lynch, James Herbert for Dune, even down to the whole fear is the mind killer sort of Bene Gesserit test. That he has to endure for no reason whatsoever. I've got, you had said Italian horror music. I've also got Halloween horror music, but the theme is very inspired by previous Italian and
it's that
John
keyboard.
Carpenter.
Yeah. Electronic keyboard.
I've got, you had mentioned the Nightmare on Elm Street ending.
Yeah.
Which is, literally the Nightmare on Elm Street ending. He is pulled through a very small slot, his entire body by 2 hands. And
and that's not the only reference to Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a scene where the tall man is chasing Mike and he literally starts sinking in the mud, which was very Nancy on the staircase. But then he also says, "Now you die." And I was like, was that Robert Englund I just heard?
Yep.
So there's a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street going on. Plus, it's just such a surrealistic movie, too, that gives it a nightmare flair. So I would say definitely what's his face? Wes Craven was
Wes Craven.
inspired by this.
Well, yeah,
movie.
that whole feel of none of this movie was real. It was all a nightmare or something.
Oh yeah, that's the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got what do I have it? It's right here. Hold on. I'm looking back. Oh, I wonder if Sam and Bruce were inspired for Army of Darkness by the whole fly sequence, because that was so much of, whoa, it's following me around, it's hitting people, and I put it in the garbage disposal, and then it attacks me again. It was almost like the hand in Army of Darkness. It reminded me of that kind of
or any of that comedy stuff.
Yeah,
from
kind of slapstickish.
From Evil Dead 2. Yeah. I could see that. So that's Sam Raimi. Or you know what? I'm just going to put Evil Dead
or Army of Darkness. Really, it's more Army of Darkness than Evil Dead.
I put Basket Case because this movie made me feel like Basket Case. I mean, I enjoyed it so much that I was like, I could watch this over and over, very much like Basket Case. Why haven't I why haven't I discovered this movie? Why weren't Steve Rowe and I watching this movie 30 years ago?
True. That's very true.
Because it's hilarious. I've got the sound when Mike chops Tall Man's fingers off.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear him making this grumbling sound behind the door, and it sounds like one of the effects from The Thing.
It does. Yeah.
It's like this. You hear the slightly high pitched like whine too.
Yeah. Almost like an injured creature
growl.
Or something.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I've got The Brood. There were parts in this where the little dwarfies reminded me of the kids in The Brood.
I had that as well, but I also paired it up with, I've got a shit ton of keys, by the way.
Good.
Oh, I put The Green Slime and The Brood because both of those were played by children. Those monsters in The Green Slime were kids.
Yes.
Little Japanese kids.
Yeah, little Japanese kids.
They were.
Okay.
And The Brood, they were little Canadian kids.
Yeah.
The ice cream truck scene with the Tommy Jawa in the back when they're driving and it's waking up is the Salem's Lot scene in the truck where they're transporting Barlow.
Yeah.
I mean, that totally threw me into Salem's Lot.
Even down to you could almost see the garage where they filmed it because it was obviously shot with a non-moving vehicle.
Oh my God. How many scenes in this movie were shot in non-moving vehicles where there's no light at all? They're just sitting in the dark.
Yeah. The whole Volkswagen scene, the whole, several times when they're doing the car chases.
The whole time I was thinking about when we talked about, Sam Raimi filming Evil Dead and that scene with Ellen and Bruce in the car was filmed after they got back to Detroit. It wasn't shot in Tennessee. And we talked about how they filmed it in his garage with a flashing light and somebody shaking the car to make it look like it was moving.
Yep.
And I was like, why didn't they do that in this? They're just sitting there still. It doesn't look real at all.
Yeah, no. It doesn't. It's a very, and I've also got in my notes that, he seemed to have the very Dukes of Hazzard, late 70s movie mentality of, as long as it's got car chases and boobs, it's going to be a good movie. Because there's two car chases in this that make no sense, that really aren't, there's no point to them. So, but
no, you're right. I was just thinking there's lots of scenes in this movie that make no sense.
Yes, that's true.
But yeah, they're as gratuitous as those boobs in the cemetery for sure.
Yeah.
The car chases. I have hearses always remind me of Burnt Offerings. I can't see a hearse in a movie without thinking of Burnt Offerings and Bette Davis.
Yep.
And then I started to mention this earlier and stop because it's a key, but the effect of the mansion disappearing in the bright, colorful light. Well, it was done by the effects of the guys on the original Star Trek series. I don't know if you knew that,
Really, Jeffson?
Yeah, it says it was done by Joe Westheimer who did the original Star Trek series. But it's the same. It says it's the same one used for the transport sequences.
Yeah.
But when I watched it, what did it remind me of?
Rocky Horror
Picture Show.
Of course it did.
It is exactly the same. It's like the mansion's going to take off.
Yeah. I mean, and superheroes.
Right.
I was just ready for the song. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. But I was waiting for it to spin. And then the man with no fucking neck to stop the globe.
The tall man with no fucking neck. There you go.
There you go. Okay. What else? You got more?
I have just a couple. I've got, you had said Argento, Italian horror in general, but Argento specifically with the music. I think also with the structure of this. The scenes in this movie are so disjointed that it has that very deep red kind of feel to me, that one scene doesn't seem to match into the next scene. Like that. Not only did they shoot it out of order, they probably, edited it out of order as well. It has a very Italian feel to me.
I think it's a cultural thing. And I think that's why this movie feels like it's an Italian movie.
Maybe.
Too. Yeah. Because it's like, maybe some class of people in European countries don't need as much explanation as we do.
Maybe they like
that. Flow over them.
And I have, it's kind of an odd key, but the whole screwdriver in the door to pry it, to block it,
to lock it.
They use the same thing in Wait Until Dark. So in the movie Wait Until Dark, that's what he uses to lock her in, is a screwdriver in the top of the jam.
I didn't remember that.
But it's a different kind of door. That door opens in. So if it has a screwdriver, you wouldn't be able to open it in because the screwdriver is wedged. But if it opens the other way, like in this movie,
it opens in and he's putting it on the outside. Yeah. So it would just fall out as soon as you open it.
You could just open the door. There's nothing holding it. Nothing. As a matter of fact, he's putting it on the latch side, which is actually pushing the plunger away from the threshold. So it would actually open easier.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, actually the whole gag comes from Wait Until Dark, which actually I think predates this. So he probably got it from that movie.
Yeah.
It's a way to do that. Yeah.
Some of these I lifted from IMDb,
sure.
In much the same way that director George Romero his creative output has been primarily centered around his success and the zombies.
Yeah.
This has been Coscarelli's primary success, the Phantasm movies. He's known for these movies and The Tall Man. So he's got a little bit of a connection with Romero there. I have that.
Although Coscarelli did do other things that were other genre. Bubba Hotep is one. He did Beastmaster. He did that entire series.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, with what's his name? The guy
Singer?
from V. Yeah, Singer. Yeah.
How did I know that?
I don't know, Tim. There's a lot of movies up there in your head.
It's some guy named Singer from the 70s, though. I remember he was another one of those Hasselhoffs.
It's Mark Singer, Tanya Roberts, and Rip Torn, and John Amos. That was Beastmaster. Remember he had the ferrets?
I haven't seen that movie, I don't think. If I have, you made me watch it. I don't remember.
He could control animals, so he had a tiger, a falcon, and 2 ferrets, and that's how he destroyed the realm or protected the citizens or whatever. Yes.
Okay. Was Sandal Bergman in it? How about Henry Silva?
No, Tanya Tucker. Tanya Roberts.
Tanya Tucker.
That was the country western version.
That I would have watched.
I bet you would have.
Oh my God. A lot of people compare Coscarelli to Wes Craven, Sam Raimi, and George Romero, as I mentioned earlier, because he did carve himself a niche out as being a horror movie director. You could add Carpenter in there too, as far as I'm concerned.
Easily.
I mentioned hearses remind me of Burnt Offerings, but the funeral home is the same freaking house from Burnt Offering.
Okay. I did not know that. That's
Yes,
good.
they used the exterior shots of the mausoleum were used in burnt offerings, and they were also used in A View to a Kill. So that building has been in other movies, including one prior. Burnt Offerings was in 1976. View to a Kill was in 1985. So it was after.
Really? Okay. I
Mhm.
did not know that. That's pretty interesting.
You know, and we've mentioned Jawas and deserts and boxes and Frank Herbert and Dune. But did you happen to notice that the name of the bar was Dune?
Yeah. And I was going, where is this set? Are they near the beach in any way? Or a desert?
It was Dune's Tavern or something.
Yep.
I can't remember, something like that. Yeah. So there's another reference for you to Frank Herbert.
And the bartender in that scene is probably the most natural actor in this entire movie.
Because he's stoned.
But like 3 lines that he has are all great. I was going, that works. That was a good little scene by him, not by
Hasselhoff.
No, Hasselhoff sucked.
Yeah. No, but I do love that Lady in Lavender, aka the tall man, goes to that bar and sits on stools and picks up dudes to kill in the cemetery.
To turn into dwarves.
And to turn into dwarfs.
Interdimensional
slaves.
Slave dwarves.
In his dimension.
Minions. They're minions.
What the hell is going on? Here's that thing about the Jawas. It says the design for the dwarfs was already completed before Star Wars came out. So I don't know how long Coscarelli was working on this movie, but he says that he already had that design.
Yeah, even down to the long pointed things on the arms and the pointed hat. Yeah, right. I don't think so.
Who knows?
But who knows? They didn't have red eyes.
The Space Gate Room. That's what they call it. The Space Gate Room was his homage to 2001. He said that was the film that got him making movies in the first place. So
I can't deny that. That's a great reason. Just practice.
Okay,
more.
Here, this is probably a good thing to close with. We've talked about how disjointed this movie is and how it feels like an Italian movie.
Yeah.
I will read this verbatim because this kind of captures the same thing. Coscarelli crafted Phantasm in the traditions of European surrealist cinema, recalling elements of George Méliès moving picture postcard tricks, the Salvador Dali Luis Buñuel collaboration, An Andalusian Dog, Jean Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast, Alain Resnais Last Year at Marienbad, Roman Polanski's Repulsion, Henry George's Clouzot's, I can't pronounce it, but it's Diabolique, which I was actually considering for the podcast next season, and William Cameron Menzies' Invaders from Mars.
I can see that.
Yeah, it says classic elements are all there: time, space, disorientation, nightmare come reality, primal mist, moving still photographs, mirrored images, hands through the ground, and a portal to another dimension.
All that's there.
So, yeah, I mean, that's wild. I mean, that is chock full of keys.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about it.
And a huge influence of that whole European cinema.
Right. And it makes sense that this movie feels so weird and we don't know what the hell's going on.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So I guess in summary, I would recommend this movie in a heartbeat. I don't know about you, but I would.
Tim would. I would not recommend this movie. I didn't really enjoy this movie. I mean, I enjoyed the funny parts of it because you have to kind of laugh at it. But I didn't really enjoy it that much. But that's what we think. What do you guys think? We would love to know your thoughts. So if you are listening or watching us right now, leave a comment below or go to Apple and leave us a comment and a review and all that kind of stuff. It really helps us, find new viewers and listeners, sort of thing. We'd love for you to subscribe so you find out about us more. We have a website that has all of our past episodes on it. You can look it up by title of whatever movie you might want to listen to. We also have, if you want to support the show, we would love to have your support. And we have a Patreon, of course. And it has two other series that we're doing as podcasts. One is Star Trek, the original series. And then, of course, the X-Files. We finished about 2 seasons of those, and we're still plowing through. But we would love to have you join us and listen to us and all of that. Tim, next time we go somewhere different, please, away from the cemetery.
Yeah, we're going to sci-fi, and it's a really good one, actually.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I get to redeem myself next week or whatever.
You do,
I feel
maybe.
better. Yeah, maybe. It depends. Well, until then, I'll see you then.
All right. You have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Watch out for silver balls.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.